My best friend used my family to kickstart her career, then lied about me being too clingy to justify cutting me off. When I finally exposed her manipulations, she just smiled and said, "Everything's a game. You just finally learned to play." That was a year ago. This morning, she walked into court and didn't deny a single word. You know, there are moments in your life where everything just clicks into place, and you realize the one person you thought was your closest friend wasn't just not your friend, but they were actively, strategically destroying you and everyone you loved. I thought I'd finally found my place, my person, but what I got instead was a masterclass in manipulation, a betrayal so deep it nearly shattered my entire family. Looking back, I should have known something was wrong when Mia started asking about my dad's business connections. But I was so desperate, so starved for friendship, that I just ignored every single red flag. Growing up, I was that awkward kid, you know? The one who ate lunch alone, invisible. So when Mia transferred to our school junior year and actually, genuinely seemed to want to hang out with me, I felt like I'd won the lottery. She was everything I wasn't, confident, popular, effortlessly cool, and for some reason, she chose me. At first, our friendship felt perfect. She'd invite me to parties where I'd stand awkwardly in the corner while she worked the room. She'd ask me to help with her homework, which I gladly did because it meant spending time together. She even convinced me to join student government with her, saying we'd make a great team. But then, the questions started. Your dad works in tech, right? Does he know anyone at Apple? Didn't you mention your uncle is a talent agent? Think he'd meet with me. Your mom's friend who owns that restaurant downtown. Could you introduce us? I thought she was just being friendly, showing interest in my family, so I made the introductions. I set up the meetings. I watched as my dad spent hours giving me career advice. As my uncle agreed to represent her for acting auditions. As my mom's friend offered her a part-time job. Mia's life started taking off. She got callbacks for commercials. She had a steady income. She was networking with industry professionals twice her age. And every time she landed something new, she'd thank me with a quick, almost dismissive hug before disappearing to celebrate with her real friends. The breaking point, the moment my world cracked open, came during senior year. Maya had been accepted to UCLA with a partial scholarship, connections my dad had helped her make. I was heading to community college because my grades weren't good enough for anywhere else. Too much time spent doing Mia's homework instead of focusing on my own. That's when I overheard her talking to Jessica Martinez in the bathroom. God, I can't wait to get away from this place, and especially away from her, Maya said, and I knew she meant me. Do you know how exhausting it is pretending to be friends with someone just because their family has connections? Like, she's sweet and all, but so clingy. The things I do for my career. Jessica laughed. At least you got what you needed from her. Exactly. Her dad basically got me this scholarship, and now that I'm graduating, I never have to see her again. I stood frozen in that bathroom stall, feeling like someone had punched me in the stomach. For years of friendship. For years of believing someone actually liked me for who I was. For years of being used. I didn't confront her. I was too humiliated, too shattered. Instead, I just started avoiding her calls, making excuses when she wanted to hang out. She seemed relieved. Honestly, no more pretending. Graduation came and went. Maya left for UCLA without saying goodbye. I thought that was the end of it. But 2 months later, she started calling again. Texting. Showing up at my community college campus. I miss you so much, she'd say. College friends just aren't the same as real friends. I almost fell for it again. Almost. Until I found out what she really wanted. She wanted me to convince my dad to invest in her startup, some wellness app she dreamed up with her new UCLA friends. $20,000, she said, just to get them through the prototype phase. She showed up at my house with a PowerPoint presentation and everything, acting like the past few months hadn't happened. My dad was in his home office when she arrived. I watched her transform into the Maya he knew. Sweet, ambitious, grateful for all his help. She hugged him like he was her own father, thanked him again for the scholarship connections, then launched into her pitch. I stood in the doorway, watching her work. She had charts, projections, testimonials from potential users. She name-dropped professors who were advising them, mentioned interest from investors who just needed to see one more partner commit. Dad listened politely, asked good questions. Maya had answers for everything. When he mentioned the risk, she brought up how he'd always encouraged her to dream big. When he asked about her experience, she reminded him how his mentorship had prepared her for this moment. She was good. Really, sickeningly good. I'll think about it, Dad said finally. Maya's face fell just slightly before she caught herself. Of course, take all the time you need. I know it's a big ask. After she left, Dad found me in the kitchen. She's very persuasive, he said. What do you think? I wanted to tell him everything. About the bathroom conversation. About how she'd used us all. But the word stuck in my throat. How could I explain that I'd let someone manipulate our entire family? That I'd been so desperate for friendship I'd ignored every warning sign? I don't know, I said instead. Maybe see if she has any other investors first. He nodded, but I could see him considering it. Maya had that effect on people. She started showing up everywhere after that. At the coffee shop where I studied. At the grocery store where my mom shopped. Always with that same bright smile, always asking if Dad had made a decision yet. She'd mention how well her classes were going, how grateful she was for everything our family had done. Classic Maya, making us feel like we owed her more. Then she escalated. She called my uncle, asking if he could introduce her to potential investors in the entertainment industry. She reached out to my mom's restaurant friend about hosting a launch party. She was building a network of pressure around my dad, and I was the only one who could see it. The breaking point, the absolute final straw, came when she showed up at my cousin Tori's birthday party. Tori was only 12, but Maya brought her a gift and acted like they were old friends. She spent the whole party charming my extended family, telling them about her app, about how my dad was considering investing. By the end of the night, 3 of my aunts were asking me why I wasn't supporting my best friend's dreams. That's when I realized I had to do something. But Maya had taught me well. If she could use connections and charm to get what she wanted, maybe I could too. I started with research. Real research, not the surface-level stuff Maya was counting on people doing. Her app idea wasn't original. There were already 5 similar ones on the market. Her advisors were just professors whose classes she'd taken. Her potential investors didn't exist. But I needed more than that. I needed to understand her pattern. I reached out to people from our high school, casually at first, just catching up. Then I mentioned Maya, see what they remembered. The story started emerging. Vita from Drama Club told me how Mia had borrowed her audition monologue, then used it to win a scholarship Vita had been competing for. Nicholas from Yearbook mentioned how Maya had taken credit for layouts he designed when applying for internships. Everyone had a story. Small betrayals. Little manipulations. Always with that same pattern. Befriend, extract value, disappear. I compiled everything into a folder. Screenshots of similar apps, records of her false claims, testimonials from people she'd used. I wasn't proud of it, but I was done being passive. The next time Mia came over, I was ready. She was in the living room with my parents, showing them updated projections. I walked in with my laptop. Maya, I said, keeping my voice steady. I've been looking into your app. I found some interesting things. Her smile flickered. Oh, like what? I pulled up the competitor apps first. These 5 apps already do exactly what you're proposing. They've been on the market for over a year. Those are different, she said quickly. Our approach is unique. Is it? I opened the next tab. Because your pitch deck uses the exact same language as Wellness Plus, word for word in some places. My parents looked at Maya, then at me. I kept going. And these advisors you mentioned? I emailed them. Professor Chin says he's never heard of your project. Professor Williams says you asked him about it once after class, but he never agreed to advise. Maya's face was changing, the mask slipping. There must be some miscommunication, like the miscommunication with Vita, or Nicholas, or the dozen other people from high school who told me how you used them. I showed my parents the folder, every screenshot, every story. Maya tried to interrupt, to explain, but for once, I didn't let her control the narrative. I heard you, I said finally, my voice breaking slightly but firm. In the bathroom, senior year. Talking to Jessica Martinez about how exhausting it was pretending to be my friend. How you only did it for the connections. The room went silent. My mom's face had gone cold. My dad was looking at Mia like he'd never seen her before. I think you should leave, he said quietly. Mia stood up, gathering her things. For a moment, the real Maya showed through. Angry, calculating, already planning her next move. Then the mask slipped back on. I'm sorry you feel that way, she said, voice steady. I really valued our friendship. After she left, my parents and I sat in silence. Finally, my mom spoke. Why didn't you tell us sooner? I was embarrassed, I admitted, and I kept hoping I was wrong about her. Dad pulled me into a hug. You're not responsible for other people's manipulation, but I'm proud of you for standing up to her. I thought that would be the end of it. Maya would move on to her next targets, and I'd never have to see her again. But I'd underestimated her. 2 weeks later, my uncle called. Maya had been spreading rumors in his industry circles, saying our family had promised to invest then backed out without reason, painting herself as a victim of a jealous friend who couldn't stand to see her succeed. Then my mom's restaurant friend called. Mia had left negative reviews on multiple platforms, claiming she'd gotten food poisoning at the establishment. The reviews were detailed, believable, and completely false. She was systematically targeting everyone who'd helped her, trying to punish us for cutting her off. And she was smart about it. Nothing illegal. Nothing we could prove definitively, just enough damage to hurt. My first instinct was to retreat, to let her win, like I always had. But something had changed in me. Maybe it was seeing my family affected. Maybe it was finally understanding that bullies only stop when someone stops them. I started documenting everything. Every false review, every rumor, every lie. I reached out to other people she'd targeted over the years, building a network of my own, not for revenge, but for protection. Then I did something I never thought I'd do. I wrote about it online, not mentioning her name, but telling the story of a friendship built on manipulation, how to recognize the signs, how to protect yourself and your family. The post went viral in our local community groups. People started sharing their own stories, not just about Maya, but about their own experiences with manipulative friendships. Maya tried to do damage control. She created fake accounts to defend herself, to paint me as the manipulator. But for every lie she posted, 5 people who knew the truth spoke up. Her carefully crafted image was crumbling. The final confrontation came at, of all places, the grocery store. I was picking up milk when I saw her at the end of the aisle. For a moment, we just stared at each other. She walked over, and I braced myself for another performance. But instead, she looked tired. "You won," she said simply. "It wasn't a game," I replied. "Everything's a game," she said. "You just finally learned how to play." She started to walk away, then turned back. "For what it's worth, I did like you in the beginning. You were just easier to use than to actually be friends with." It was the most honest thing she'd ever said to me. I watched her leave, feeling oddly empty. I'd expected to feel victorious, but mostly I just felt sad. Sad for the friendship that never really existed. Sad for the person Maya could have been if she'd chosen differently. But I wasn't sad for standing up to her. My family was safe. The people she'd targeted had support. And I'd learned that being desperate for friendship could make you blind to who someone really was. My dad was right. I wasn't responsible for Mia's manipulation, but I was responsible for what I did once I recognized it. And finally, I'd chosen to fight back. These days, I'm more careful about who I trust, but I'm not closed off. I've made real friends at community college, people who like me for who I am, not what my family can offer them. And when I see warning signs now, I don't ignore them. Sometimes I wonder what Mia is doing now. If she's found new people to manipulate, or if she's changed. Part of me hopes she has, that maybe losing everything forced her to build something real. But mostly, I'm just grateful I learned to see through the mask before she could do more damage. And that when it mattered most, I found my voice. Because that's what predators count on. Your silence, your desperation, your willingness to ignore red flags. They count on you being too embarrassed or too afraid to speak up. But silence is what lets them win. And I was done letting Maya win. 3 months passed without any word from Maya. I'd started to believe she'd finally given up, moved on to easier targets at UCLA. My family had recovered from her attacks. The false reviews were removed after we provided evidence of their fraudulent nature, and my uncle's reputation remained intact once people realized Maya's pattern of manipulation. I was actually starting to feel normal again. Community college was going well, and I joined a study group where people genuinely helped each other without ulterior motives. That's where I met Vic, a computer science major who became my first real friend since Maya. We bonded over late-night coding sessions and shared stories about toxic friendships we'd escaped. Then my younger brother called me one afternoon. "Hey, do you know someone named Maya? She just added me on Instagram." My blood ran cold. My brother was 16, still in high school, and had no idea about what had happened with Maya. We'd kept him out of it to protect him. "Don't accept it," I said immediately. "And block her." "Why? She seems cool. She said she knows you from high school." I drove straight to our parents' house. My brother was confused but agreed to block her after I gave him a condensed version of the Maya saga. But the damage was already starting. She'd messaged him before he blocked her, mentioning she had opportunities for ambitious high school students interested in tech. Over the next week, Mia's new strategy became clear. She was targeting the younger siblings and relatives of everyone who'd cut her off. My cousin Tori, now 13, received friend requests across all platforms. My uncle's daughter got messages about acting opportunities. Even my mom's friend's teenage son was contacted about restaurant management internships. But Maya had learned from her previous mistakes. She wasn't using her real accounts. She'd created elaborate fake profiles, talent scouts, tech entrepreneurs, restaurant consultants. Each profile had hundreds of followers, professional-looking posts, and enough authenticity to fool a teenager. I only discovered the full extent when Tori's mom called me, concerned. Tori had been corresponding with a modeling scout who was promising her representation. The scout had asked for professional photos, nothing inappropriate yet, but was pushing for an in-person meeting. "The weird thing is," my aunt said, "she keeps mentioning you. Says you recommended Tori to her." I knew immediately it was Maya. The writing style, the manipulation tactics, the way she was using my name to build trust. But proving it was another matter. Vic helped me trace the fake accounts. We spent hours analyzing posting patterns, reverse searching profile photos, tracking IP addresses where possible. What we found was disturbing. Maya had created an entire network of 8 professionals, all interconnected, all vouching for each other. This is sophisticated, Vic said, showing me the web of connections. She must have spent months building this. The worst part was that some of it was working. My uncle's daughter had already sent her headshots to the fake talent scout. My mom's friend's son had shared his college application essays with the supposed restaurant consultant. They were giving Mia exactly what she wanted: information, access, leverage. I called a family meeting. It was awkward, explaining to aunts, uncles, and cousins how Mia was now targeting their children. Some believed me immediately. Others were skeptical. Surely someone wouldn't go to such lengths just for revenge? Show them the evidence, my dad suggested. So I did. The fake profiles, the traced connections, the similar writing patterns across all the accounts. I showed them screenshots of Mia's old manipulations for comparison. Slowly, the skepticism turned to anger. We need to warn the kids, my aunt said. We need to do more than that, my uncle added. This is harassment. But Mia was too smart to do anything legally actionable. The fake profiles weren't explicitly threatening or inappropriate. She was careful to keep everything just on the side of legitimate business inquiry. It was creepy and wrong, but not criminal. We did what we could. Every family member under 18 was briefed on the situation. Privacy settings were updated. The fake accounts were reported to the platforms, though Mia just created new ones. Then she escalated again. My brother came home from school one day looking shaken. There was someone asking about me, he said. A woman. She told my friend she was a family friend and wanted to surprise me. The description matched Maya. She'd shown up at his school. My parents were furious. This was crossing a line. My dad wanted to confront her directly, but I knew that's what she wanted: a reaction, drama, something she could twist to make herself the victim. Let me handle it, I said, though I had no idea how. Vic had an idea. If she's creating fake profiles to manipulate people, what if we expose them? Not just to your family, but publicly. We spent the next week documenting everything. Every fake profile, every connection, every attempted manipulation. Vic helped me create a website, not mentioning Maya by name, but detailing the tactics used by sophisticated online predators targeting minors through fake professional opportunities. The site included warning signs, verification techniques, and real examples with identifying details removed. We shared it in parent groups, school newsletters, and community forums. The response was immediate. Other families started sharing their own experiences with similar fake profiles. Some were Mia's, but others were different predators using the same tactics. Without meaning to, we'd exposed a larger problem. Mia's fake network started crumbling as more people became aware. Her profiles were reported en masse. Schools sent out warnings. Parents were checking their kids' social media more carefully. But Mia wasn't done. One morning, I woke up to dozens of notifications. Someone had created a blog post about me, the girl who cried wolf, a story of jealousy and defamation. It detailed how I destroyed an innocent friend's reputation out of jealousy, complete with out-of-context screenshots and twisted versions of real events. The post was anonymous, but I knew it was Maya. She'd even included photos from our high school days, pictures where we looked happy together, which she used to prove our friendship had been real and I was the manipulator. The post went viral in our community. People who didn't know the full story started questioning my version of events. Some of the parents who'd shared our warning website were having second thoughts. Maya had found a way to flip the narrative again. Don't respond, Vic advised. That's what she wants. She's baiting you into a public fight. But staying silent felt like letting her win. My family was getting messages asking if I'd made everything up. My brother was getting comments at school. Even some of my new friends at community college were asking questions. I was spiraling, checking the post obsessively, watching the comment count grow. That's when my mom sat me down. Remember what you told us about Mia's pattern? She said. She pushes until she gets a reaction. Don't give her one. Instead, we focused on what we could control. My dad reached out to a lawyer friend who specialized in online harassment. While Maya hadn't crossed into criminal territory, we could document everything in case she escalated further. My uncle used his entertainment industry connections differently this time, not to help Mia, but to spread awareness about fake talent scouts targeting minors. He got several legitimate agents to post warnings about the specific tactics Mia had used. Slowly, the tide turned again. People who actually knew our family spoke up in the comments of Mia's post, sharing their own experiences with her manipulation. Former classmates added their stories. The narrative Mia had tried to create started falling apart under scrutiny. Then came the twist I hadn't expected. Vic was helping me monitor the fake profiles when he found something odd. These accounts aren't just targeting your family anymore, he said. Look at this. He showed me screenshots from UCLA student groups. Maya was using the same fake profiles to target her new classmates, offering internships, networking opportunities, connections that didn't exist. But this time, she was asking for money. Small amounts at first. Processing fees for applications, deposit holds for opportunities. She's turned it into a scam, I said, stunned. We weren't the only ones who'd noticed. A UCLA student had created a warning post about the fake profiles in their school forum. They didn't know about Mia's connection, just that someone was running internship scams targeting students. I reached out to the student privately, sharing what I knew without mentioning Mia's name. They were grateful for the information and updated their post with more details. The UCLA administration got involved, sending out official warnings. Mia's new scheme unraveled quickly. Students compared notes, traced payments, identified patterns. Someone eventually connected the fake profiles to Mia. A classmate recognized her writing style in one of the scam messages. I heard about what happened next through the grapevine. Mia was called into the dean's office. While she hadn't technically broken any laws, she'd been careful about that. She'd violated numerous university policies. There was talk of academic probation, loss of her scholarship, possible expulsion. That's when she called me. It was late, almost midnight. I stared at her name on my phone screen, debating whether to answer. Curiosity won. You destroyed everything, she said without preamble, her voice different, raw, no performance. You destroyed everything yourself, I replied. I was building something. I was going to be somebody. By scamming college students? By targeting kids? She was quiet for a moment. I needed money. The scholarship doesn't cover everything, and your family cut me off. My family doesn't owe you anything, Maya. I know, she said, and for the first time, she sounded genuinely defeated. I know that now. We sat in silence on the phone. Part of me wanted to hang up, but another part needed to hear whatever she'd say next. I'm leaving UCLA, she said finally. Transferring somewhere else. Starting over. Are you going to change, or just find new people to manipulate? She laughed, but it was bitter. I don't know how to be any other way. This is who I am. That's not true. You're choosing to be this way. Maybe, she said. Or maybe some people are just broken. She hung up before I could respond. I found out later that she'd withdrawn from UCLA before they could take formal action. She transferred to a state school across the country, deleted all her social media, and disappeared from our lives completely. But the damage she'd done had an unexpected positive outcome. Our family had grown closer through the ordeal. We'd learned to communicate better, to watch out for each other. The younger kids had learned valuable lessons about online safety and manipulation tactics. The website Vic and I created continued to help other families identify and avoid similar scams. We'd accidentally become advocates for online safety education. Schools invited us to speak about recognizing manipulation tactics. Parent groups shared our resources. My brother, who'd been Mia's first new target, became particularly passionate about the cause. He started a club at his high school focused on digital literacy and online safety. What had begun as Mia's attempt to manipulate him had transformed into him helping protect others. 6 months after Mia's phone call, I was preparing for a presentation at a local middle school when I received an email from an address I didn't recognize. The subject line simply said, "Thank you." Inside was a short message. I saw your website. It helped me recognize what someone was doing to me. You saved me from making a huge mistake. I know you don't know me, but I wanted you to know that what you're doing matters. I stared at the email, feeling a mix of emotions. We'd never intended to become activists or educators. We'd just been trying to protect our family from one person's manipulation. But sometimes, the worst experiences can transform into something meaningful. Vic found me in the computer lab later, working on our presentation. You okay? He asked, noticing my expression. I showed him the email. He smiled. See? Maya thought she was destroying you. But instead, she gave you a purpose. He was right. In trying to hurt my family, Mia had inadvertently created something positive. We'd built networks of support, education systems, and awareness that would help countless others avoid similar manipulation. The presentation at the middle school went well. The kids were engaged, asking smart questions about how to verify online identities and recognize manipulation tactics. Their teacher thanked us afterward, mentioning she'd already seen students applying what they'd learned. As we packed up our materials, I thought about Mia's words during that final phone call. She'd said she didn't know how to be any other way, that she was broken. But watching these kids learn to protect themselves, seeing families become more aware and connected, I realized something. Mia had chosen her path. She'd had opportunities to change, people who genuinely cared about her, chances to build real relationships. But she'd chosen manipulation over connection, schemes over sincerity. And in the end, that choice had cost her everything. We all have that choice every day. We decide whether to build others up or tear them down, whether to connect authentically or manipulate for gain. Maya had taught me that lesson in the hardest way possible, but it was a lesson worth learning. The ripple effects continued. My uncle started a mentorship program for young actors that included education about industry scams. My mom's restaurant friend implemented verification procedures for anyone claiming to represent networking opportunities. My dad became more cautious about business connections, but also more willing to help those who'd proven themselves trustworthy. I transferred to a 4-year university after completing my community college requirements. The experience with Maya had actually strengthened my application. I wrote about overcoming manipulation and turning negative experiences into positive action. The admissions committee was impressed by the website and educational programs we developed. Vic transferred with me. We'd become not just friends, but partners in our mission to educate others about online safety. We expanded the website, created social media campaigns, and even received a small grant to develop educational materials for schools. One day, while updating our resources, I came across a news article about a similar scam network being exposed at another university. The tactics were identical to Maya's: fake profiles, promised opportunities, targeted manipulation. But this time, students recognized the signs quickly because they'd seen our warnings. "We're making a difference," Vic said, reading over my shoulder. We were. What had started as one person's campaign of manipulation had become a movement of education and protection. Families were talking more openly about online safety. Schools were implementing digital literacy programs. Students were looking out for each other. I never heard from Maya again after that phone call. Sometimes I searched for her online, curious about whether she'd changed or simply found new victims. But she'd vanished completely, leaving no digital footprint. Part of me hoped she'd found help, maybe therapy or counseling that could address whatever drove her to manipulate others. But another part of me knew that change only comes when someone truly wants it, and Maya had seemed resigned to being who she was. The website notification dinged. Another message from someone who'd avoided a scam thanks to our resources. These messages came regularly now, each one a reminder that something positive had emerged from those painful experiences. My family still talks about the Maya situation sometimes, usually when warning younger relatives about online safety or discussing trust and friendship. It's become part of our family lore, the time we all came together to fight back against a master manipulator. But more than that, it's become a reminder of our strength. Maya had tried to divide us, to use our connections against each other, to punish us for seeing through her facade. Instead, she'd made us stronger, more united, more aware. As I prepared for graduation, I reflected on how different my life had become from what I'd imagined in high school. Back then, I just wanted a friend, someone who chose me. I'd been so desperate for that connection that I'd ignored every warning sign. Now, I had real friends, genuine connections built on mutual respect and trust. I had a purpose, born from pain, but focused on protection. I had a family that had grown closer through adversity. Maya had taken a lot from me: trust, innocence, the ability to accept friendship at face value. But what I'd gained in return was so much more valuable. I'd found my voice, my strength, my ability to stand up not just for myself, but for others. The final irony was that Maya had given me exactly what she'd pretended to offer: confidence, connections, and purpose. Just not in the way she'd intended. As I looked at the latest batch of thank you messages from people who'd avoided scams, I realized something. Maya might have won some battles, but she'd ultimately lost the war. Not because we defeated her, but because her actions had created something she never expected. She'd created warriors out of victims, educators out of targets, and a network of protection out of a web of manipulation. In trying to destroy us, she'd made us indestructible. And that was the ultimate justice. Not revenge, not punishment, but transformation. Taking the worst someone could do and turning it into something that helps others. Maya had been right about one thing during that final call: everything was a game. But she'd misunderstood the rules. It wasn't about winning or losing, manipulating or being manipulated. It was about choosing who you wanted to be in the game of life. She'd chosen to be a predator. But in doing so, she'd taught us all how to stop being prey. The email notification on my phone made my stomach drop. Maya's old UCLA email address, the one I thought had been deactivated months ago. The subject line read, "You haven't won yet." I opened it against my better judgment. Inside was a single line: "Check your brother's Instagram." My hands shook as I pulled up his profile. Everything looked normal at first: photos from his basketball games, memes, random snapshots with friends. Then I saw it. A new follower with a generic name, but the profile picture made my blood freeze. It was a photo of my brother walking home from school, taken from across the street. I called him immediately. He didn't answer. I tried again. Nothing. Racing to my car, I drove straight to his school. The final bell had rung 20 minutes ago. The parking lot was mostly empty, just a few students lingering by their cars. No sign of my brother. I found his basketball coach in the gym. Have you seen my brother? Did he come to practice? The coach shook his head. He said he had a college prep meeting. Some woman from UCLA was supposed to talk to him about early admission programs. My heart pounded. There was no college prep meeting. Maya was here. I ran through the school, checking empty classrooms, the library, the cafeteria. Nothing. Then I remembered my brother had mentioned a new tutoring center that opened near campus. Maya knew he struggled with math. She'd helped him once during her senior year. The tutoring center was 3 blocks away. I drove there, running 2 stop signs. Through the window, I could see them. Maya, sitting across from my brother at a small table, papers spread between them. She was smiling, gesturing at something on a laptop screen. My brother was leaning in, interested. I burst through the door. They both looked up. Mia's smile never wavered. "Oh, hi," she said brightly. "I was just telling your brother about this amazing summer program at UCLA, full scholarship for high-achieving students." I remembered how good he was at creative writing. My brother looked confused. "She said you recommended me." "Get away from him," I said, my voice low and steady. Mia's expression shifted to concern. "Is everything okay? I was just trying to help. I know we've had our differences, but I still care about your family." "The program doesn't exist," I told my brother. Just like her startup didn't exist. Just like everything else she's ever promised. My brother looked between us, understanding dawning on his face. He started gathering his things. "Wait," Maya said, her mask slipping. "I have the application right here. The deadline is tomorrow. This is a real opportunity. Show me the program website," I challenged. She hesitated. "It's not public yet. They're keeping it exclusive because it doesn't exist." I put my hand on my brother's shoulder. "We're leaving." Mia stood up quickly. "You're ruining his future because of your jealousy, just like you tried to ruin mine." My brother pulled away from her. "My sister told me about you. About what you did to our family. She's lying." Mia said desperately. "I helped your family. I brought opportunities." "You brought lies," my brother said. "And you're still lying." We left her standing there, her carefully constructed story crumbling. In the car, my brother was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "She seemed so genuine. How do you do that? Lie so convincingly." "Practice," I said. "And no conscience." That night, we had another family meeting. This time, everyone took it seriously. No more skepticism, no more benefit of the doubt. Maya had crossed a final line by approaching my brother in person, especially using deception to get him alone. "We need a restraining order," my mom said. "She hasn't technically threatened anyone," Dad pointed out. "The lawyer said it would be hard to prove harassment. So we just let her keep doing this," my aunt asked. Vic had been quietly working on his laptop during the discussion. "Actually," he said, "I might have found something." He turned the screen toward us. "Remember those fake profiles Maya created? I've been tracking them. She made a mistake. She used the same password recovery email for several of them. And that email, it's connected to other things." "What kind of things?" I asked. "Other scams. Before she came to your school, she was running similar schemes in her previous city. I found complaints on local forums, people talking about a girl who befriended them, gained their trust, then asked for money or favors. The details match Maya's patterns exactly." My uncle leaned forward. "How many people?" "At least a dozen that I can verify." Vic pulled up screenshot after screenshot. "Maybe more. She's been doing this for years. We weren't her first victims, and we won't be her last. Unless someone stops her. We need to contact these people," I said. "Get their stories. Build a case." Over the next week, that's exactly what we did. Vic and I reached out carefully to the people he'd identified. Some didn't want to talk about it, embarrassed they'd been fooled. But others were eager to share their experiences, relieved to find they weren't alone. The stories were eerily similar. Maya would identify people with connections or resources she wanted. She'd befriend them, make them feel special, then slowly start asking for favors. When they eventually caught on and cut her off, she'd retaliate. False rumors, negative reviews, harassment of family members. One woman, Nikki, had owned a boutique clothing store. Mia had convinced her to give her expensive clothes on consignment, promising to promote them to her influential friends. The clothes disappeared. Mia vanished. And when Nikki tried to confront her, Mia filed a false complaint with the Better Business Bureau. Another victim, Cole, had been a music producer. Mia had pretended to be an aspiring singer, gotten him to spend hours teaching her about the industry, introducing her to contacts. When he realized she was using him and ended their friendship, she spread rumors that he was inappropriate with young artists. It nearly destroyed his career. "She's escalating," Vic observed as we compiled the stories. Each time, She gets bolder, takes more, retaliates harder. I thought about my brother, how Maya had approached him directly. She's not going to stop. No, Vic agreed. Not unless we make her. We created a comprehensive document. Every story, every piece of evidence, every pattern of behavior. Not for legal action, but for protection. We shared it with all of Mia's previous victims, creating a network of people who could warn others. Then something unexpected happened. Cole, the music producer, called me. I just got off the phone with someone from UCLA, he said. They're investigating Maya for fraud. Apparently, several students filed complaints about fake internship scams. They found my old complaint from years ago during their investigation. My heart raced. What does this mean? They're building a case for expulsion, and the detective I spoke with mentioned possible criminal charges. Wire fraud, if she took money across state lines. For the first time in months, I felt hope. Real consequences might finally catch up with Maya. 2 days later, she showed up at my community college. I was walking to my car after class when I saw her leaning against it. My first instinct was to run, but I forced myself to keep walking. I wouldn't let her see fear anymore. The police came to my apartment, she said without preamble. They had questions about some alleged scams. I said nothing, just stood there with my keys in my hand. You did this, she continued. You couldn't just let it go. I was starting over, building a new life, and you had to destroy it. You destroyed it yourself, I said, echoing our last phone conversation. Every lie, every manipulation, every person you hurt, that was all you. Her face contorted with rage. I was surviving. Do you know what it's like to have nothing? No family money, no connections, no advantages? I had to create my own opportunities. By stealing other people's. By being smart. By using what was available. She stepped closer. You had everything handed to you. Your dad's connections, your uncle's influence. You never had to fight for anything. I almost laughed. You think having family who loves you is the same as having everything handed to you? You had that too, Maya. My family cared about you. They wanted to help you succeed, honestly. But that wasn't enough for you. Because honest doesn't work, she shouted. Nice doesn't get you anywhere. I tried being genuine, and where did it get me? Nowhere. But being strategic, being smart about relationships, that opened doors. And now those doors are closing. I said, UCLA knows. The police know. Everyone you've hurt knows. You can't run from this anymore. She was quiet for a moment, that calculating look in her eyes. You think you've won, but I know things about your family. Private things. You told me when we were friends. Things that could be embarrassing if they got out. I felt the old fear creeping in, then pushed it away. Go ahead. Tell whoever you want. We're not ashamed of anything. And threats like that, they just prove who you really are. Her mask finally cracked completely. I hate you, she said, her voice raw. I gave you friendship when no one else would. I made you feel special. And this is how you repay me. You gave me lies, I said. You made me feel used. And I'm repaying you with exactly what you deserve, the truth. I got in my car and drove away, leaving her standing in the parking lot. My hands shook the entire drive home, but I felt something shifting inside me. I wasn't afraid of her anymore. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. The UCLA investigation moved quickly. Once they connected Mia's scams to previous complaints, more victims came forward. The pattern was undeniable. Vic and I were asked to provide our documentation to the investigators. The network we'd built became crucial evidence. Maya had been careful, but not careful enough. The fake profiles, the consistent patterns, the money trail from the UCLA scams, it all painted a clear picture. My family received a call from the detective handling the case. Maya had been formally charged with wire fraud and identity theft. The fake profiles she'd created using real people's photos without permission had finally crossed into criminal territory. She's looking at real jail time, the detective told us. Not much for a first offense, but enough to make her think twice about doing this again. I should have felt victorious, but mostly I just felt tired and sad. Sad for all the people she'd hurt. Sad for the person she could have been if she'd made different choices. The trial was set for 6 months later. Maya was out on bail, but with strict conditions. No internet access, no contact with any victims or witnesses. For someone who lived through digital manipulation, it was almost like prison already. My brother's school implemented new policies about verifying college recruiters and guest speakers. Other schools in the district followed suit. Our website traffic exploded as news of Mia's arrest spread through local parent networks. One afternoon, I was updating the website when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. It's me. Mia's voice was different, quiet, defeated. I'm not supposed to contact you, I know, but I needed to say something. I should have hung up. I didn't. I've been thinking, she continued. In therapy, court mandated of course. The therapist keeps asking why I do it. Why I can't form real relationships. I stayed silent, letting her talk. I used to think everyone was like me. That all friendships were transactional. That everyone was just better at hiding it. She paused. But watching your family rally around each other, seeing how those other people I'd hurt came together, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I couldn't help but respond. Okay, I was wrong, but I don't know how to be different. It's like there's something broken in me that doesn't understand genuine connection. That's not an excuse, I said. No, it's not. I'm not calling to make excuses. I'm calling to say. She took a breath. I'm sorry. Really sorry. Not sorry I got caught, but sorry I hurt you. You were the closest thing to a real friend I ever had, and I destroyed it because I didn't know how to just be friends. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to forgive her, to believe she could change. But the larger part remembered all the pain she'd caused. I hope you get help, I said finally. Real help. But I can't forgive you. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I understand, she said. I wouldn't forgive me either. She hung up. It was the last time we ever spoke. The trial went forward as scheduled. Maya pleaded guilty to avoid a longer sentence. She got 18 months in minimum security, 3 years probation, and was ordered to pay restitution to her victims. I testified along with several others she'd hurt. It was harder than I expected, seeing her in court. She looked smaller somehow, the confidence and charm stripped away. When the sentence was read, she didn't react, just nodded like she'd expected it. After the trial, the other victims and I gathered at a nearby coffee shop. We'd become an unlikely support group over the months, bonded by shared experience. Nikki raised her cup in a toast. To surviving, she said, and to stopping her from doing it to anyone else. We clinked cups. Cole turned to me. You know, if you hadn't started that website, hadn't brought us all together, she'd still be out there running scams. Vic and I just wanted to protect our families, I said. And you ended up protecting dozens of others, Nikki added. That's something to be proud of. As I drove home that night, I thought about the strange journey that had brought me here. From desperate for friendship to standing up in court. From victim to advocate. From silence to finding my voice. My phone buzzed with a text from Vic, presentation tomorrow at the high school. You ready? I smiled and texted back, ready. Our educational program had expanded beyond what we'd ever imagined. Schools across the state were requesting our presentations. Parents were sharing our resources. We'd accidentally become experts in online manipulation and prevention. My brother met me at the door when I got home. How did it go? She's going to jail? I said. He nodded. Good. Maybe now she'll stop. Maybe. I agreed, though I wondered if someone like Maya could ever really change. That night at dinner, my family was quieter than usual. We'd won, but it didn't feel like a celebration. It felt like the end of something exhausting and sad. I'm proud of you, Dad said finally, for standing up to her, for protecting others, for turning something painful into something positive. We all did it together, I said, and meant it. Without my family's support, I never could have fought back. Mom reached over and squeezed my hand. Next time someone tries to manipulate any of us, we'll see it coming. Let's hope there isn't a next time, my uncle said. But we all knew there would be. There would always be people like Maya in the world, looking for vulnerabilities to exploit. The difference was, now we knew how to spot them, how to protect ourselves and others. As I lay in bed that night, I pulled up the website statistics. Thousands of visitors this month. Dozens of emails from people who'd avoided scams because of our resources. Messages from parents who'd had important conversations with their kids about online safety. Maya had set out to use and destroy me. Instead, she'd inadvertently created something that would protect countless others from people like her. It was the ultimate irony, and perhaps the only justice that really mattered. My phone buzzed with one last notification, an email from a high school student. Your presentation today made me realize my mentor was actually trying to scam me. Thank you for opening my eyes. I smiled and closed my laptop. Tomorrow, Vic and I would update the website with new information from the trial. We'd schedule more presentations. We'd continue building our network of protection and education. Maya was going to jail, but our work was just beginning. Because she was right about one thing. There would always be predators looking for prey. But now, thanks to her, we were teaching people how to bare their teeth. The next morning came too quickly. I met Vic at the high school for our presentation. As we set up, he asked, "You okay?" Yesterday was a lot. "I'm good," I said, and meant it. Ready to make sure no one else goes through what we did. The auditorium filled with students. I saw my brother in the third row with his friends, proud that his sister was speaking. As I looked out at all those faces, I thought about the shy, desperate girl I'd been when Maya first approached me. She'd seen in an easy target. She'd been wrong. Who here has ever received a message from someone claiming to offer an amazing opportunity? I began. Dozens of hands went up. Let me tell you a story about fake friends and real consequences.